Welcome to the Recap Vault. Today we're revisiting one of animation's most emotionally powerful stories, The Iron Giant, 1999, directed by Brad Bird. Set during the paranoia of the Cold War, this film dared to ask one timeless question: what if a weapon decided it didn't want to be one? It's a story about fear, friendship, and the choice to be good, even when the world expects you to destroy. Released by Warner Brothers in 1999, The Iron Giant struggled at the box office but became a cult classic over time. Critics hailed it as one of the most mature and moving animated films ever made. Decades later, it stands tall. A story about humanity told through the eyes of something not human at all. The movie begins in October 1957, just after the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first satellite to orbit Earth. The world is on edge, and the people of Rockwell, Maine, live under a constant hum of anxiety. Nuclear drills, conspiracy rumors, and an obsession with what could be out there. One stormy night, something crashes into the sea off the coast of Maine. A massive object burning through the clouds before vanishing into the waves. A fisherman barely escapes with his life, muttering about a giant from the sky. No one believes him. At least not until a curious 9-year-old boy named Hogarth Hughes stumbles upon the truth. Hogarth is bright, lonely, and restless. The kind of kid who reads comic books under the covers and dreams of adventure far beyond his small-town life. His mother, Annie, works double shifts at the local diner, leaving Hogarth to his imagination. One night, while exploring the woods near an electrical substation, Hogarth discovers something incredible: a colossal robot, tangled in power lines and electrocuting itself as it feeds on metal. Without thinking, Hogarth shuts off the main switch, saving the creature's life. When the power cuts back on, the robot vanishes into the forest. Hogarth's world will never be the same again. Days later, he sets out to find it again, carrying a camera and flashlight, hoping to prove that what he saw was real. After hours of searching, he spots it: the Iron Giant, massive and curious, peering through the trees like a child caught doing something wrong. Despite its size and terrifying appearance, there's something gentle about the way it looks at him. The creature doesn't remember who it is or why it's here. All it knows is hunger for metal. It devours cars, tractors, and scrap, leaving trails of twisted steel in its wake. When it accidentally damages train tracks, Hogarth rushes to warn it. But the giant's confusion causes a collision. The impact shatters its body into pieces, scattering mechanical limbs across the field. Hogarth hides the broken parts in his barn, praying no one discovers them. That night, something miraculous happens. The pieces begin to move on their own, magnetically reassembling until the giant stands whole again. Hogarth realizes he hasn't found a monster, he's found a miracle. The two form a bond built on innocence and trust. Hogarth teaches the giant about the world, about people, food, and kindness. The robot, fascinated by human stories, fixates on Hogarth's comic books, especially Superman. In a decade dominated by cynicism, The Iron Giant brought back the idea that heroism isn't about strength, it's about choice. Superman wasn't just a comic book reference, he was a symbol for the kind of being the giant wanted to become. But peace doesn't last long in the age of suspicion. Rumors of strange sightings reach the ears of Kent Mansley, a paranoid government agent obsessed with tracking down foreign threats. He arrives in Rockwell, investigating missing equipment, scorched metal, and stories of a metal man. Mansley checks into a room at the Hughes home, determined to spy on Hogarth and uncover the truth. Hogarth, realizing he's being watched, has to get creative, sneaking around town and finding ways to hide his new friend. Eventually, he meets Dean McCoppin, a beatnik artist who runs a junkyard on the outskirts of town. Dean's world is full of sculptures made from scrap metal, a perfect place for a 50-foot robot to hide. Dean reluctantly agrees to help, and soon the Iron Giant becomes part of his art, disguised among piles of twisted metal. The giant, though childlike, begins to grasp the concept of morality. When he sees hunters kill a deer, he's confused and saddened. Hogarth kneels beside the fallen animal and explains death. That living things can end, and that guns take life away. The giant looks at his own hand, realizing the danger of his own power. Guns kill, Hogarth tells him softly. You don't have to be a gun. Those words take root. A seed of conscience planted in metal. The deer scene is the emotional center of The Iron Giant. It's where the film stops being about a boy and his robot and becomes a meditation on innocence, violence, and free will. But while Hogarth teaches, Mansley schemes. He's pieced together enough evidence to know something big, literally, is hiding nearby. When Mansley follows Hogarth one day, he finds a camera roll that shows blurry photos of the giant. Hogarth finally has a friend who listens, and the giant has purpose. But the illusion shatters when Mansley calls in the US Army. Led by General Rogard, tanks and troops roll into Rockwell. Mansley warns of a weapon that could destroy the entire town. A Cold War nightmare walking on two legs. When the giant accidentally reveals himself while saving two boys from falling, panic spreads. The military opens fire. The giant doesn't understand why they're attacking. He runs, confused and afraid, as shells explode around him. Hogarth pleads with the soldiers to stop. But Mansley insists the creature is an enemy. As the bombardment continues, the giant's defensive systems activate. His eyes shift from soft blue to a burning red, his programming overriding his innocence. He retaliates, blasting tanks and planes out of the sky with unimaginable power. Hogarth rushes toward him, shouting his name. He trips, hits the ground, and the giant stops. Seeing his friend unconscious, he kneels beside him, his eyes softening again. The weapon fades. The soul returns. When Hogarth opens his eyes, the giant whispers his first words of peace. He's not a gun. Vault note, this moment, you are who you choose to be, became one of animation's most enduring messages. The Iron Giant isn't fighting against humans. He's fighting against destiny. But Mansley, consumed by fear and pride, refuses to back down. He lies to the general, claiming the giant attacked first, and orders the launch of a nuclear missile. The missile locks onto the giant's location, Rockwell itself. The town's destruction is now inevitable. The general realizes the horror too late. It's aimed at us, he says, voice shaking. We're all going to die. The Iron Giant rises. He looks down at Hogarth, the boy who showed him what it means to be alive, and smiles. He understands what must be done. The Iron Giant looks toward the sky, the missile streaking high above the clouds, humanity's final act of self-destruction already in motion. Hogarth realizes what his friend intends to do, and shakes his head, tears streaming. You don't have to go, he pleads. The giant kneels, lowering his massive hand so Hogarth can place his palm against the cold metal. There's no fear in the robot's eyes now, only calm understanding. You stay, the giant says softly. I go. And then, with a final smile, he launches himself upward. The rockets on his back igniting, fire and wind exploding around him. Through the storm clouds, he flies directly toward the incoming missile. As the bomb reaches its apex, the giant closes his eyes and remembers Hogarth's words. You are who you choose to be. He smiles. The missile detonates. A blinding light engulfs the sky. From the ground, the townspeople watch in stunned silence as a massive wave of light blooms above them and fades. The explosion never touches Rockwell. The giant's sacrifice saves everyone. The Iron Giant's final act is one of cinema's most powerful moments. It's not just about sacrifice, it's about transcendence. A weapon built to destroy chooses compassion over programming, proving that morality isn't human, it's conscious. The world moves on, but the memory of the giant remains. The town erects a statue in his honor. The Iron Giant, arms outstretched toward the sky. Months later, a package arrives for him from the government. Inside is a single piece of the giant's body, a bolt. Hogarth sets it on his nightstand before bed. That night, he hears a faint clinking sound. The bolt begins to twitch, rolling toward the window. Outside, far away in the Arctic tundra, metal parts stir and click, pieces scattered from the explosion slowly reassembling, drawn together by a mysterious magnetic pull. And then, in the glow of the northern lights, two metal eyes flicker to life. The Iron Giant is alive. When The Iron Giant was released in 1999, it barely made a dent at the box office, competing with the tail end of Disney's golden era. And struggling from poor marketing, it quietly disappeared from theaters. But over time, it became something far greater, a modern myth carried not by hype, but by the people who couldn't forget it. Brad Bird's film, adapted from Ted Hughes' 1968 novel, was born out of personal tragedy and profound empathy. Hughes wrote the original story to comfort his children after their mother's death, a way to show that destruction and healing could coexist. Bird, who lost his sister to gun violence, infused the film with that same emotional core, a plea against fear, violence, and the idea that our nature defines us. Few animated films carry moral weight like this one. The Iron Giant isn't about monsters or machines. It's about the human tendency to fear what we don't understand, and the courage it takes to choose peace in a world built on fear. The Cold War setting amplifies that theme. In 1957, fear ruled the world, of communism, of nuclear annihilation, of the unknown. Yet through a child's eyes, the Iron Giant reveals the absurdity of that fear. It asks us if even a weapon can learn compassion. Why can't we? Visually, the film is a masterclass in restraint. Its clean hand-drawn animation contrasts with the mechanical perfection of the giant, creating a visual metaphor, the soft humanity of imperfection versus the cold symmetry of design. That was The Iron Giant, 1999. A story about identity, fear, and the beauty of defiance. A film that taught us even the coldest metal can hold a heart, and that the greatest hero doesn't always come from Earth. If you enjoyed this recap, subscribe to the Recap Vault, your shortcut to the movies that shaped pop culture.